Okay. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Steve.
How are you?
Great. How are
Great.
you?
Good, thanks. It is amazing, all this technology. I don't even know where you live. Where are you
I
located?
right. I live in upstate New York.
Uh-huh.
It's a town called Wappingers Falls. Probably
Okay.
never heard of
Never heard of
it.
it. Okay. So here we are at sort of the opposite ends of the continent here, and we're able to talk, and we got a video cam going, and we're going to talk about language learning. And you've been learning Spanish, right? How long have you been learning Spanish?
Let's see. I actually first started Spanish in high school.
Uh-huh.
So that would be, let's see, 20 years ago, 19.
Okay.
So
We
it's
won't
been a
do we
while.
won't do the math on that.
Yeah, so, right. Quite some time. Off
Okay.
and on, of course.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And of course, you're learning Spanish at Link.
hmm
I hope you're enjoying it.
Yes, I am.
Good.
No way I'd still be at Link if I weren't.
Right. But you sometimes express the sort of concern or frustration might be a too strong a word, but that you feel you're not progressing as much as you would like, or sometimes you seem to feel you're not progressing at all. Or explain that. Like, what would you like
Right.
to be achieving that you're not achieving?
Right. Well, I think that I want to be fluent, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
already is a kind of nebulous term, I guess.
Right.
But when I have conversations with the tutors,
Mm-hmm.
they're always very complimentary. They say, "Wow, your Spanish is great. It's improved a lot." But I just feel myself stumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know it's not, I don't think that it's really a real live situation, you know what I mean?
Right.
I kind of feel that I couldn't really make it in that kind of situation where I had to speak the language.
Right.
Right, because, and then I've had a couple of times where I've had to, like, just for, to order something in a restaurant, and I've kind of, you know, gone a little bit blank and not been able to say anything, and that's kind of frustrating for me.
Right. Okay. Do you find that when you're reading stuff or listening to stuff at Link that you understand more now than you did, say, 6 months ago?
Yeah, definitely,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't find that, like, I maybe have different expectations than you. You know, I've been studying Russian now for 4 years at Link. I certainly understand much more than I did even a year ago. But when I was recently in Russia, where the higher the degree of tension, the less well I do. So if I'm in a lineup, say at the train station, and there's 8 people behind me, and I
Right.
get there and I ask, where do I buy a ticket or when are the trains to such and such, and back comes the answer, rapid fire, and I didn't understand it. Although I know all the words, but there's pressure, and there's people behind me, and she's impatient. You don't do as well. Whereas if you're surrounded by friends, like we went out with some of our Link members for dinner, 10 people, and everybody's a friend, so
Right.
you do well because you're supported, you're comfortable. So I think some of those things, I think, influence it. And when you're talking on Skype with a tutor, even though I think we are good friends with our tutors, I know I am with my Russian tutors, I'm sure you are with your Spanish tutors, it's Skype. It's not the same as sitting around a coffee table. So I think
Right.
some of these things influence how we do.
True enough. That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. And the other thing I feel is that, like, I enjoy the process of listening and reading and hearing the language and saying, "Wow, look at me! I'm listening to all this in Russian. I understand it." I tend to pat myself on the back a lot more. And yeah, I stumble. I know I make mistakes when I speak. I know that I stumble looking for words. Some things I can express quite comfortably, and other things I can't seem to get. I've painted myself into a corner. I can't seem to, no matter which word I look for, it doesn't. I can't kind of explain what I want to explain. I just think that's part of the process. Whereas if you were to go, have you ever been to a Spanish-speaking country?
Yes, I have.
Where were you?
I've been to several. I've been to, these are all on vacation.
Right.
For 5 or 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras.
Mm-hmm. How did you do down there?
my point across when I had to. I wasn't as fluent as I would like, but I was okay. I survived. I didn't speak Spanish all the time, right? My friends or my husband with me don't speak Spanish, so I, didn't speak it all the time. But it was good.
Did you
more or less?
Yeah. Did the people down there speak English, or did they not speak English?
Right. Well, it depends. In let's see, in Honduras, that was where I spoke the most Spanish, because the people where I was, they really didn't speak English at all.
Right.
So I really had to speak Spanish, and I think that's where I spoke the most Spanish.
Right.
And I feel that bad because they wouldn't be able to understand me speaking English anyway.
Right.
So my stumbling Spanish was better than, not doing anything.
Right.
But in Mexico, we went to Cancun,
right,
and everyone there speaks English, right? Because it's a big tourist place. So,
would they identifying you as an American? Would they immediately switch to English?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that can be a bit frustrating too, right? They want to speak English, and they want to show that they speak English, and so they immediately switch to English, which is a bit deflating. Which is a bit deflating at times. Yeah.
But Steve, I think that you keep saying this thing about the process. I think it's because you've learned so many languages that you're able to really trust that process.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm still with my first language, is what I'm doing really working? I'm not sure, so I'm kind of impatient. When is it going to happen?
Right.
I think that really comes into play also.
Yeah. Yes. And, I mean, in my own case, the first language that I really went after was French. And to be honest, it wasn't until I went to France that I really kind of, became weightless, so to speak, went into outer space, because it's a long process. So in a way, I feel, you're building yourself up to where you can take advantage of a situation where you're going to be speaking the language for 2, 3, 4 months, whatever. Until you're in that situation, sort of immersed in the language, you're not going to make that spectacular breakthrough, because you're not speaking that much. So you're building up your vocabulary, your familiarity with the language, so that if you were to go to Honduras, let's say you went down there on an aid project or something, and you're going to spend 2 months in a village helping people build a clinic or something, that people do these kinds of things, there would be a big breakthrough. Whereas if you didn't have the basics, if you didn't have that language potential, then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of it as much. I kind of see it that way, that if you're not speaking that much, you won't be able to speak that well. At some point you have to have a lot of situations where you're forced from morning till night to speak the language, if that makes sense. Like
yeah,
I found,
it makes sense. Trying to see a way around it, but I don't.
I mean, for example, Chinese, which I studied a lot and stuff. I think my trips to China, where for 2 weeks I'm speaking Chinese from morning till night, those have a big influence on me. But I wouldn't be able to speak Chinese from morning till night if I hadn't worked at it ahead of time.
Right.
So, yeah. So at some point, yeah, you can only do so much, insofar as the speaking is concerned, until you get yourself in a situation. You just have to be confident that you are, in fact, building up the capability, so that if you went to Honduras, like if you were to go to some place where everyone spoke Spanish on a 2-month study program or something, then I think you'd come back from that speaking the way you would like to speak.
Right.
Until you do that, you won't achieve that level. So therefore, you kind of have to be happy with the level that you have.
Right. And I am happy when I'm able to, read a book or watch a program on TV. Or, for example, I have a meetup group here where I am, and they speak Spanish, and I'm able to understand them, and sometimes I interject. So that's all good.
That's a good idea. They're like native speakers?
Yeah, well, we're pretty small right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 2 of us that are not native speakers, and there are 5 that are native speakers.
But that's great. That's a great opportunity. The trouble with all of these things is, whether it's your meetup group or talking on Skype with one of our tutors, it only amounts to a half hour, an hour here or there, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a situation where you're speaking from morning till night with people. Say you went on a trip with nothing but Spanish speakers. I mean, that degree of intensity, it just turns a switch. That's been my experience. So
I tried that. Me being a little bit kind of shy, I tried it. Just talking to myself, but I guess it's not the same, and I just felt really kind of silly.
I hear these people who talk to themselves, or they do this shadowing, talking while listening and stuff. I find that I can do that a little bit, and then I just stop doing it. It's just not the same. But we've had Chinese, for example. I went there when my book was published in China. I had to go there on 2 separate occasions. My publisher, I was with their people like every day. We were traveling around giving lectures in Chinese. I had to prepare my lecture in Chinese. It was like solid Chinese. And so you do that for a week, and you're just bumped up a whole level. So you kind of have to set up that kind of an experience. Yeah, all right. Well, that's interesting. I think the main thing is that we enjoy what we're doing, So I feel that the goal is the process in a way. So I look forward every day to downloading my interviews from this Russian radio station, and I listen to them, and I read them, and then I save words and phrases in Lincoln. I just enjoy the process. And I don't really know whether I'm that much better now. Sometimes I look at a video that I made 3 years ago, and I don't really think I'm that much better in a way. But I know in terms of what I understand, I am better. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a matter of adjusting one's ambitions. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Good. Any questions you have?
Wow. Let's see. I can't really think of anything right now. Isn't that crazy?
Okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate your active participation at Link and the sort of back and forth between you and Albert and Berta on different items relating to their content. I think it very much encourages them. I think that that obviously these people who create the content, they want some kind of recognition, response, and you always provide that, which is great.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really great. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful for the website because I think that I'm the closest that I've ever been to fluency in Spanish.
Right. Yeah, and I saw your video some while ago. You were very good in Spanish.
Oh, you're too kind.
Absolutely. Your pronunciation and fluency, I mean, it looked very good to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to head off. Thank you very much. And I'll send you this first. You can have a look at it, and then we'll put it up in my on my blog.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.